Good evening, folks. Welcome to Activate Worcester. And I have to tell you, I hope you've had a great holiday weekend. We're coming off Easter, we're coming off Passover, we're coming off Ramadan. The big three all converged at the same time. And in keeping with the spirit of the holiday, I engaged on a personal challenge. The challenge was this: how many calories could a human being consume in 72 hours? And I'm not going to share that number with you, but I will tell you that it's in Guinness. It's being reviewed by Guinness right now to determine whether or not it's really possible that some little fat guy actually did this. Well, trust me, I did. I got on the scales, plural, this morning, and something's got to happen. Or I'm just going to float away. I mean, it's just unreal. But anyway, we had a great time for the entire weekend, and we're going to do something a little different tonight. The last several shows, about 6 of them, have been darker and darkest because of mirroring what's going on in our city, in the state, in the country, and in the world. Well, today I'm very happy to report that we are going back to the candy store of life, which is sports. And
that would make me the candy man.
And you be the candy man. And my erstwhile number one grandson, the oldest of 12, Chris Motta, also known as Topher, UMass, is joining us tonight. And the game plan is to do not one but 2 shows because there's just so much going on sports-wise that it's bizarre. And for us not to tap into that here, the middle of April, would be very foolish. We will normally bring him back again in August because by that time we're getting ready to get going with the Patriots for the regular season. Hopefully the Red Sox will be in the middle of it at that point as well. So anyway, great having you on again.
Thanks for having me back.
Oh, great.
As usual, glad to be here.
Amen. And we decided where we would begin is in a place that I'm certainly totally uncomfortable with, is the Boston Bruins.
We are uncomfortable with.
Yeah, well, you're less so than I. I've always enjoyed going to the games. I've always enjoyed when I have a chance to actually sit and watch the game. I still don't truly understand it. I respect it, but I really don't follow it. And I appreciate the passion that, as Eddie Endelman used to call them, the hockey Krishnas, who are really into the sport, and that's great. And basically what's happening with them at this point?
I believe at this point, the Bruins sit in 3rd place in the Atlantic, I believe it is, or the East, or I don't know what the actual division is. But Tampa Bay is, I believe, 1 point up on them right now. So they have a possibility of getting the number 1 overall seed and not having to deal with a wild card game. Mm-hmm. I know they're starting to trend in the right direction right now. Goalies have been playing better. I don't know, you like to see the team trending up, and it seems like they went on a little bit of a rut over the past couple of weeks, but it seems like they've kind of got it figured out. They've got a few tests coming up, too. They have some good games before the season ends, but you know what they say in hockey, it's all about finishing at your best and going into the playoffs strong. So, the Bruins make the playoffs every year. It's tough to talk about them because they don't have Krejci this year, but they have Taylor Hall, so they have another really good second line forward. So ultimately, I don't know what the Bruins are going to do. I think they're capable and armed like they are every single year. They have firepower. They changed up the lines compared to years past a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I think they're probably pretty hungry.
Well, 2 things. Number one, you mentioned Hall, who's a big get. But they knew that going in. Mm-hmm. But they also made a move for another guy whose name escapes me. I think he's a defenseman, and he's supposed to be really good. And they paid a long price for him, but he fills a real void. The only other thing I can say that I have a little bit of familiarity with is that they will no longer have Tuukka Rask.
Oh, they had him for a bit. He tried to come back, but You know how nature works.
Yep. Well, he
Tends
sure
to
is.
organically work itself out,
Yep.
and I think Tuca being back for a few games was all it took for everyone, including him,
To realize.
from brass down, to realize that it was worth
Turn
the
out
shot.
the lights, the party's over, baby.
Yeah, he took a minimum salary.
Yep.
It was a good thing
Yep.
that they got him, but it didn't work out, and they weren't really affected by it.
Well,
So
what I like about it is the guy didn't leave as a dog. He came back. He really tried hard, as he always did. And he goes down as the greatest goalie that the team has ever had. He's won
because he
more
did have a
games
reputation as being a dog for a while,
Well-
as being a dude who didn't.
in the big games.
Yeah,
In
exactly.
the big games, and so on and so forth. So now we have two guys that are scrambling to become the number one goalkeeper, as they like to call it. And we shall see. But at any rate, it keeps the momentum going of having not one, not two, not three, but four teams in four different,
Oh, yeah.
in four different sports, all being highly, highly competitive.
Yeah, and
Very
you got to
few
think.
markets can say that.
Yeah, very few markets right now have a hockey team and a basketball team, which are going to finish around the same time.
Yep.
Very few markets can claim that they have two championship level teams. And
Simultaneously,
and
that's right.
Boston does.
true.
I feel like we've had it for a while. The Celtics have been on the cusp for a while. The Bruins have been a little closer.
Yep.
Obviously got to the cup against St. Louis, but yeah, I think it is good for the city. It's a very good thing. The energy's up right now.
Without a doubt.
The Sox just started. The draft is on the way.
Let us not forget that last year, the Sox did make the playoffs, okay,
Yeah.
and so did
When everyone was checked out to start the season.
the Patriots. So it's an ongoing city of pride that you have going here,
Yep.
which is just unbelievable, and you can't knock it. So I think all of that's very, very positive, but it is what it is, as they say. But now let's get into the meat of where we're really coming from, and let's start with my favorite sport, baseball.
Okay.
Okay. Obviously, we're going to talk Sox, but we will be talking about Woo Sox for sure. And I have to say this, that there's another team in town that is, God, I hope they continue to do their thing because they put a great product on the field for years. And I'm talking about the Bravehearts. This is a team that I guess was either the second or third independent baseball league team to try to make a go of it. And everybody, all the naysayers, you can't, it's not going to happen, blah, blah, blah. Well, it did happen. And I forget how many years they've been here, 6, 7 years, whatever it is. They've been champions several times, and I think they've been in the finals every year.
I think it's been even longer than that. I feel like it's been like
maybe
10
it's
years.
8, 10, I'm hazy on it.
Yeah.
But what I'm not hazy about is going to the ballpark. It's the Hanover Insurance Park, known as the HIP, has always been a delight to go to. It's a clean, beautiful venue,
Yep.
very family-oriented. The food that the folks who run the place with do just a great. They've been in business over 100 years, and they know something about catering, and they've put a really good quality product out there for people to enjoy. And even from the perspective, it's easy to get. The highway, you're right there, on and off 290. No big hassles. Parking is free. Seats are inexpensive. They always have all sorts of things going on.
The
for
quality
kids.
is good too.
Without a doubt.
Those are good college players.
Yeah.
They might not be. It might not be the Cape Cod League, but these are quality players.
But pretty
who are-
close.
Yeah.
And it's here.
Yeah.
You don't have to drive
Yeah,
to the
exactly.
Cape.
And I know the Woo Sox definitely get all the attention, as they should. It's a great new ballpark, Polar Park. I got to go last year with you for the first time.
Sure.
I had a blast.
And we'll do it again.
But that being said, I think that shouldn't negate the Bravehearts and how good they've been for having a team in Worcester. Think about how many teams have come in and out, like even hockey teams.
It's true.
I think they had an Arena Football League team in here for
They've
a little
had
bit. The Worcester
several,
Surge.
Yeah, they've had
you
all
know.
sorts. They've
They had
got
the Ice Cats.
They've got the
and-
Worcester Pirates,
Yep.
who we never even talk about, and they try like hell to make a go of it. But nonetheless, the Bravehearts always have programs and promotions. Hell, you'd go there on a Friday night, and they'd have a fireworks display for 20, 25 minutes. Great family venue, and all I'm saying, guys, is that we really should support them. And I'm not saying to the exclusion. I think there's plenty for both, okay? But then the segue from that, obviously, are the Woo Sox. The Woo Sox are the hot ticket. As Toph is saying, a beautiful, beautiful ballpark, no doubt about it. And they've made some more enhancements to it, even with the food and so on.
Yeah, the food is great. They got
And
so many good options
yeah,
and
yeah.
local options, you can tell.
Which is the whole idea behind
Yeah,
it, which
so
is great.
definitely great for the
You don't
community.
have an Olive Garden at
Yeah.
the Polar Park.
And you can also see the surrounding area walking up to the park when we parked, I got to walk through for the first time in a while and see like how they had been building up the city around it, around that whole
Without a
area,
doubt.
Kelly Square,
Yep.
all that.
Yep.
It was awesome. It's definitely a great overhaul for that area.
What they've done is taken an area that was basically dormant for years, and they've been a catalyst to a lot of positive things happening, not just for the ballpark itself, but as far as Polar Park, it's a great venue. There's no bad seats at all. It's great. They have lots of things going on. It's a fun place to go. The tickets are reasonable. It's not like going to Fenway Park.
Oh, yeah.
Where if you go with a wife,
Well, the beers are
2
more
kids,
expensive than the tickets.
Yeah.
A lot of the times.
That's
and
about
the
it.
sausages, it's crazy over there.
And it's fun. And they have, right now, with that team, a number of guys who are legitimate major league quality, who are on the cusp, who need a little bit more seasoning and so forth. And they have a guy who's really their focal point this year, I guess, is a guy named Tristan Casas. Remember that? I don't know if he says it Casas or whatever it is. Big dude. He's a first baseman. He's like 6'4", 6'5", and he plays at about 265. Big, very strong guy. He's not a statue. He plays first base very, very well. Good hands, digs, throws out of the dirt and everything else. But the thing this guy brings is excitement to the plate. He's a left-handed hitter who can hit lefties, by the way. And in his first game this year, he hit a home run. So what? He hit a 477-foot home run in his first game. Not too shabby.
Yeah, I don't know how many ballparks are holding that in.
No, I mean, he'll hit it
everywhere.
out of Grand Central Station. The guy's unbelievable.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he hit like 3 home runs when he was first called up last year or something in that first game?
Absolutely.
So he's got a thing for first games, for getting them right under the belt.
The only thing that concerns me about it is that I think there may be a tendency to bring him up too soon. Give the guy a full year down in AAA, let him get the exposure, let him play against top competition, and find his way. But he's going to find his way to Fenway, there's no doubt about it.
And if he's plays to the point where you can't help but calling him up because he's so good, then you look at past history, 2013, Xander Bogaerts get called up right before September 1st. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And if that's the case, we have that option down the line too.
No doubt.
No
doubt.
I don't think there's any problem with leaving him in there. And if there ever were to be a Dahlbeck injury or, one of the bats goes down, JD, if we need another power bat in the lineup, I think there's absolutely.
Well, the only thing of it is when you bring guys up before they're really ready. Now, for example, you said Franchi Cordero, okay?
Mm-hmm.
A guy that they picked up in a trade, big guy, tremendous power. And he can play different positions, but the guy basically has had no conception of the strike zone. He played very well last year for Worcester. Then they brought him up to the big show, and he was
overwhelmed
just
by the stuff.
by everything. He couldn't handle it. He's back down. He's batting fourth in the lineup, and he's really improved. His ability to contend with the strike zone and not be a fish is really improved. However, there's another guy in the mix that I haven't mentioned yet. Last year, out of nowhere, they came up with a center fielder named Jaron Duran, probably the fastest guy playing baseball in any level today. The kid's an absolute jet. He's an outfielder, decent arm, good ball player, And last year, out of nowhere, he starts hitting home runs. I think he had 14 home runs in a half a season, at Worcester. And what did they do? They brought him up. He wasn't ready. And he struck out like 40-something% of every time he came to the plate, which is absolutely unacceptable, especially for a guy that supposedly is a contact hitter and not a power hitter. So he was just overwhelmed, and I think they lost an awful lot of confidence in him. And he's a very, very exciting player. He's back down again, and hopefully he'll regain his stroke, regain his confidence, because they really could use another good outfielder. Not at Worcester, I'm talking about in Boston, no doubt about it.
But only going to be able to watch Jackie Bradley at the plate for so long.
Well, we're going to go there in a minute. But relative to where they're at in Worcester, there's an awful lot of real good talent. In fact, at one point last week, they had hit 16 home runs as a team, which led all of baseball. They hit more home runs as a team than any other professional baseball team at any level. So they're going to be a fun team and a fun place to go for the rest of the season. But now let's talk the Boston team. Okay. What I've seen so far with them, their starters have been erratic. But you kind of expect that. Early in the season, they're still kind of figuring it out. They got a bunch of new guys as starters.
Evaldi has settled down a bit too.
Yeah, Pivetta hasn't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
Michael Waka.
Yeah, he had a great start last outing.
Rich Hill, is a retread.
He's 43 years old.
Whatever.
So
whatever you get out of him, you get out of him. But once again, Chris Sale, who could be the best pitcher in all of baseball when he's able to pitch, on the sidelines yet again. You don't know what you're going to get with this guy.
Yeah, and it'd be a great addition to get later in the season, at being able to add a guy. Or 60, what is he out, 60 games?
At least, yeah.
If he can come back and be himself, it does seem like there's enough time for him to, get over half a season under his belt.
They brought him back in Worcester on a rehab.
Yep.
Saw him pitch. And he looked good for a AAA pitcher, but he wasn't Chris Sale. He didn't have the same pop. And God knows if that'll ever come back. If it does, now you got an ace, and that'll put them right in the middle.
He's a hard worker, though. Loves the game. And he's going to keep working to get back.
And the fans love him, too.
Yep.
But beyond that, their bullpen, oddly enough, has been better than decent. It's been surprisingly good across the board, which has been kind of nice. But
they locked up Whitlock, which is good.
They did, but they don't really have an honest-to-God closer at this point. They have a guy named Matt Barnes. Matt Barnes is a number one draft choice out of UConn and has been with the team, 5-6 years, and basically a pretty good relief pitcher. Last year, in the first half of the year, he came up out of nowhere, and he was probably the dominant relief pitcher in all of baseball. He had movement on his curveball, movement on his slider. I mean, he was just unreal.
His stuff was never in question. He's always had,
Well, he threw hard, but he never had the movement like he did last year.
Yeah, last year, his pitches were biting, and obviously it fell off at a certain point where you couldn't even. It was worse than Kimbrel when Kimbrel had those stretches where you were so petrified of him being in the game because he could throw 8 straight balls.
Which he did, man.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. And you were petrified to have him out there. That is how Matt Barnes got last year. He was not playable in a 7th, 8th, or 9th inning situation. Only, in earlier innings of relief when you have a starter who can't go and you got to take him out of the game. But like you're saying, if Matt Barnes can find his form again, that's baseball. You have guys getting in grooves. They feel good for a few weeks. If we can get him back, it would be a very big addition to be able to have a solid Matt Barnes at the end of the rotation.
Well, the thing of it is, with Matt Barnes, you don't know what you really have. Now, last year, just to look back retrospectively, he pitched well enough that he made the All-Star game. The All-Star team had pitched in the All-Star game. But if you guys remember, there was something that came down. He also signed this real nice contract extension while he was in the midst of being this, drop-dead closer. Along came a new ruling from baseball that there was some substance that they were using to give them a little bit more
a little bit of pine tar.
pine tar, whatever it was. And it allowed them to grip the baseball a little bit more. And as soon as they put that into effect, Matt Barnes went right down the tubes.
I'm sure his spin rate dropped.
It was like a completely different. It was almost like the old days when they'd have guys who could throw spitballs. And when they outlawed the spitball, suddenly guys became very ordinary. That's what Matt Barnes was. Now, the thing of it is, Matt Barnes, okay, their overall pitching staff, okay, like I said, has been okay. The relief pitchers have had a collective earned run average of less than 3, which is really, really good, especially when you consider they have one guy there named Crawford, who they, just signed and everything else. His earned run average is 15.75. In English, what does that mean? For every 9 innings the guy pitches, he gives up almost 16 runs, almost 2 an inning. And the guy's a relief pitcher. You can't do that because that doesn't include guys he lets come in that he's inherited. So it's just, he's been just hideous. Barnes is at a 6. Everybody else is 3 or less. The real problem with the team at this point has been the hitting. The number one hitter on the team, and he's been really the best player, is Alex out in left field. He's been Verdugo. He's been terrific. Second highest batting average after him was Devers,
who had a hit in every game up until last night, I believe.
Power, great fielder, the whole thing, batting .319. Then the next guy is Bogey, your shortstop, batting .300.
Who just worked to get his average up, too, because it was pretty low to start the season.
Terribly, but that's okay. So your top 3 guys are 300 or better. Can't do much better than that. But now is when everything falls off the table, because the next best guy is batting, and that's J.D., who's supposed to be a great hitter, .231.
What about Story?
Jack E. Bradley batting .222, 5th best on the team, which is amazing. Story, which is another story, he's batting like .260. He was .280, had a couple of bad games, he's back down. Dahlbeck at first base is another one of these enigmas. He's batting .152. This is a guy that the first half last year was batting about .200, and they were playing, bringing guys in to play first base because this guy was just not going to hit. Then in the second half of the year, he was damn near the best hitter in the American League.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so
in August specifically, that was the month
he
where
was unreal. So what do you get with this guy? Now he's like what he was. So we don't really know what the situation is. But he mentioned Travis Story. Okay. This is a guy that they signed for 4 years.
Something like $125 million.
Like $30 million a year or something like this. And the guy, really good ball player, played in Colorado. I think that's where he played his entire career. The only problem is when he's away from Colorado, he bats, I think his collective averages have been about .205. So it makes you wonder, were those numbers that he's had, which were very, very good, were they hyped because he played in Colorado because they've got the real thin air out there? So if he's really a .220 hitter, this could be a historically bad signing for 2 reasons. Number one, if that's all he's going to give us, .220, .230, .240 with 15 home runs, they overpaid by about 80%. But there's a ripple effect.
Because now, how do you pay Bogarts?
How do you pay Bogarts and how do you pay Devers?
Well, I loved the signing of Trevor Story, and it caught my attention
when Travis?
Yeah,
Trevor.
I'm
sorry.
When we first got Story, it intrigued me that I was hearing the news that Xander Bogaerts was one of the main recruiters that made that happen, considering that he was going to need to get his contract done. So here's how I look at it. If the Red Sox are double dipping and saying, you know what, we want Story long term, but we're still just as committed to re-signing Xander, I'm okay with it. And if you strike out, you strike out. But if this comes at the expense of Xander Bogaerts or Rafael Devers, one of the 2 big contracts that we need to take care of next year, then I'm already out on it. Because you can't imagine that Xander's going to be making much more than Story. They're the same age. if Story's making $30 million a year, what is Xander going to make 35? If you just tried to save yourself $5 million a year by signing Trevor Story, instead of the guy who came up through your system, has been a part of championships, then I think it's a horrible move.
I agree.
Because Xander is, I would say he's taken over the Pedroia role of being the voice. You know, obviously Pedroia probably took it over from Ortiz when they kind of went out at the same time, but I would say he's the leader of the entire team. And everyone,
no question.
The culture starts with him. And if you just tried to, get a deal on your culture, you can't sacrifice that. That's what I'm saying.
Well, the other part of it is if you look at Devers at third base, who's becoming, without a doubt, one of the top 10 guys in baseball, and maybe beyond that, the contract discussions broke down, and supposedly, they get a load of this, guys, they were 9 figures apart. In English, over $100 million difference between what he was thinking about and what they were offering. So if they think they're going to give a guy like that a low ball offer, he is going to be so far out of this town, it's unreal. And I know they've got, good young players in the pipeline. There's no Rafael Devers in that group, and there's not another Bogarts. They have a guy they drafted number 1 last year, Marcel Mayer. He's an infielder, shortstop. He's, not even in Double-A yet. You don't know what you have with him. He's years away.
If he is anything, yeah.
So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting season for the boys. But I know this: they better start hitting, because if they don't have enough power, that's a tough division that they're in.
They're already beating the hell out of each other. All of them. I looked, and the Red Sox were in first place in the AL East at 6-5. You had 6-5, 6-5, 5-6, 5-6,
and then Baltimore.
But every division needs a Jets or a Baltimore.
We've got Baltimore, which is great. But at any rate, just to kind of wrap it up, this is going to be a great year for baseball around here between the Red Sox, the Woo Sox, and the Bravehearts. So follow them. They're worth it. It's fun. Get out. You don't need the masks on. Enjoy it. And we'll check in every now and then to let you know what's going on with them. So what I'm going to do at this point is thank you for watching. And our next show, which will be shown next week, will be a football preview, among other things, because the NFL draft is coming up next Thursday. And we'll also discuss the local basketball team as well. Thanks for watching, Toph. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me again.
We'll look forward to having you. You're our consigliere when it comes to sports. So Thank you for being here. And again, good night, and tell your friends about the show.